So thank you, Pip and Nat, for joining me today. My name's Camilla. I am the Head of Programming for Cheltenham Music Festival. And we have joined together to have a conversation about careers and careers in the arts. We'll also hopefully be having some conversations with some musicians who are part of the music festival, but we thought it might be interesting to chat to some of our festival team so that people can find out a little bit about what goes on behind the scenes, how we got where we are, and just learn a little bit more about Cheltenham festivals as a whole. So Pip, do you want to introduce yourself first and tell us a little bit about your role?
Yeah, absolutely. So my name is Pip Claridge and my job title is Education Manager, but there are actually a number of education managers within the organisation. I work specifically with the jazz and music festivals, and I also look after any community outreach programmes.
And Nat, how about you?
Yeah, hi, I'm Natalie. I am the operations coordinator for the music and jazz festivals. So we have two operations coordinators, and one person deals with the science and literature side of things, and I do all of the musical sides of things as well. So my job involves dealing with the logistics, such as transport, accommodation, contracting our artists, and just dealing with many of the inquiries that come in to do with our artists.
And so did both of you have a musical background? Did you both study music? What, Pip, you can go first. Tell us about your background.
So no, I didn't study music. I actually studied languages. I travelled and worked abroad for many years. Including 5 years, nearly 6 years actually, in Indonesia, where I found out a lot about the music and culture of that particular country, the dance, the gamelan, all of that. Came back to this country, and I had trained previously as a teacher, I should have said. After my language degree, I trained as a teacher. So when I came back, I was able to sort of combine my teaching with IT, because I'd done a training course in IT skills. So I combined those things and worked teaching people IT skills. And then just fancied a complete change really, and saw a job advertised at Cheltenham festivals. And I visited the festivals a number of times over the years and loved it, been really interested in it, and saw a job advertised, applied for it, had an amazing interview and got the job, and that was 16 years ago. So I joined a very small education team, at the time only 2 people, and the whole organisation was much smaller than it is now, and have been here ever since, seen many changes, been involved in lots of amazing, exciting projects and programmes. And back to your original question about music, no, however, music has always been a huge part of my life, and I love being involved in anything to do with music.
And Nat, what about you? You have a musical background, don't you?
Yes, so I studied music at University of Manchester. So I did my undergraduate degree there. My background's in classical music, so I played the violin and joined kind of many orchestras while I was at university. Have always been involved in kind of different ensembles, and have played a lot in many kind of pit bands and musicals and things like that. The kind of all-rounded experience you get as an undergrad. But I kind of found a love of classical music kind of when I was at school, actually. I'm actually from Gloucester, so I grew up with the Cheltenham festivals, kind of, attending some of the music festival concerts and things like that. I've actually played in a few of our venues. When I was growing up as a kid, I did a couple of concerts at the town hall and things like that. So I know our venues from that perspective, which is quite fun. But yeah, my background was in classical music, but obviously working at the jazz festival as well, I feel like I have now reached a more broad understanding of what it means to be a kind of you know, behind the scenes, all round kind of arts manager, as well as dealing with the classical music side. You know, one thing is, I will say that classical musicians are, you know, pretty much prompt and on time, and jazz musicians are, you know, that's it. I know that's a stereotype, but can be extremely laid back when it comes to you know, timings of things. So that's been a fun challenge of my job. Arts graduates now are, you know, up against so many difficult things when they come out of uni, and particularly for arts graduates, you know, what we know of you know, from statistics of that, it's, you know, harder for us to pay off loans. You know, our employability isn't necessarily any less than any other graduate, but we obviously struggle to find a role straight away within the arts. And there's, you know, fierce competition. And I certainly found that when I graduated, and I know a number of my friends did as well, where just, you know, you're competing against all the arts graduates in the country, really, for, you know, a handful of jobs, due to the fact that obviously our arts funding has been, you know, massively in decline over the last few years. And I think that it really shows when you go to cities like London and there's a handful of jobs available in the sector that you really want. So for me, it was orchestral jobs and orchestral management. There were very few positions available, and those jobs were very highly sought after. So after that, and having to you know, fiercely kind of battle your way through getting interviews and things like that, I think that, you know, you do have to reassess your kind of your plans for what you want to do, and I think, you know, certainly that happened to me. I became kind of, my interest became broader because I think to an extent you need to have that kind of flexibility as an arts graduate. You know, you're not necessarily going to be working in the exact institution that you would like, you know, a year after graduation, but and like
orchestral management is really hard to get into. Really
yeah,
hard.
it's definitely, and I think some of it, obviously, I think one thing with arts graduates is, you know, there are a number of internships. They're quite low paid. Not everybody can, you know, can afford to work and be so low paid. So it's a really tricky thing. And I would definitely say to any graduate who's, you know, graduating now with lots of debt, as we all did, you know, from the year who had the tripled fees, I would say that, you know, working on a lot of temporary jobs, or a lot of, you know, short-term contracts and jobs that, you know, aren't necessarily anything to do with music. It's kind of a necessity, because I worked in a cafe for a year after graduation. So I know that, you know, it's just not realistic to walk straight into the job of your dreams.
Pip, I mean, is that your experience? Have you seen the landscape change during your time at Cheltenham Festivals, in terms of the kind of, you know, what it's like for our younger colleagues coming out of university or school and trying to find opportunities? Do you think it's a bit harder now? Was it easier for you to kind of find your way into your role? I feel like nowadays people have to be, you know, kind of almost overqualified to get a position.
I think that's definitely the case, and probably not only in the arts but in all kinds of fields, that young people are you know, much more qualified than they would have been maybe 20 years ago, for sure. That's part of the whole educational landscape, isn't it? And yeah, I really feel for young people who are wanting to get into the arts, because, as Nat said, there are handfuls of jobs, a small number of jobs really, compared with the number of extremely capable, practical people, skilled, you know, passionate, enthusiastic, knowledgeable, all the rest of it. So I do really feel for them. But I guess that's the same in a lot of other fields as well. And, you know, it's a competitive world out there, isn't it?
Yeah, and I think you probably have to be, and it's hard sometimes, but I think you probably have to be quite a resilient person in a lot of ways to kind of stick at it and in something like the arts, where you have to really prove yourself to get the role and maybe wait a while to find the right opportunity. You have to build up that resilience, but actually doing that and learning to kind of take those opportunities when they come along, like you were saying, Nat, with the kind of part-time jobs or a temporary contract with the festival or a venue or whatever it might be, actually stands you in quite good stead once you do get a job, because you'll have picked up so many skills along the way that you'll use once you're working. I met someone at a party who was an artist manager. I'd never heard of the job before, and I kind of quizzed him about it, and I thought, okay, I think I could do this. This sounds quite interesting, and kind of managed to get myself some work experience with an artist management agency in London. I mean, literally I worked in a music shop, and the director of an artist management company came in and gave me his card for invoicing. And I saw that he was an artist manager, and I ran out of the shop and chased him down the road and stopped him and asked him how I could become an artist manager. And he remembered me and came back and offered me work over the summer holidays. And that was really how it all started for me. And it is, I think, it's not particularly highbrow advice, but for me, definitely taking those strange little opportunities or moments of fate that come along and kind of running with them or sort of exploring them a bit is often what has led me into various different jobs that I've done. And how I've ended up where I am is, I haven't always perhaps been the best qualified person for a role, but I've kind of proven to the people interviewing me that I am quite canny or can, adaptable, and have ideas and then you can kind of convince someone to give you a chance, and that's half the battle, I think, sometimes.
I think that's so true as well, what you were saying about not knowing that a job exists, because I think so often undergraduates and people out of college or school, or you don't know what jobs are out there, and you certainly don't know the name, the job titles that you could have, and there are so many things out there that you just don't realize until you speak to somebody who works in the industry, and of course they know all about it. But that's another I think really good piece of advice, is just speaking to as many people as possible, and like you said, Mill, like if you see somebody has a job that you've not heard about before, just asking them what it involves, and you never know where those conversations might go.
It's so true, isn't it? Because it must apply in other subjects, but definitely at school as a musician, nobody knew what to do with me. And when I would say that I wanted to study music or be a musician, I think pretty much every teacher I ever had tried to convince me not to study music at uni.
Yeah, I think that's so common. One of my friends told our teacher that she was going to be an opera singer, and the teacher laughed at her. And I think it's a ridiculous thing maybe for a teacher to hear if they don't understand the industry, and if they've never had a student say that to them before. Certainly in the school that I went to, it was a comprehensive school in Tuffley, which is in Gloucestershire. I just think that maybe they just didn't really know what to do with us, aspiring classical musicians. It's
We're
just a bit weird. yeah.
I think that's it, isn't it? You get told you can become a teacher, and that's about the only option people see for musicians. And actually lots of my uni friends have gone on to become really fantastic teachers, so it's definitely a great option, but just not something that I could ever do. I really don't think I've got the patience.
And it's just great to be able to be creative and to take risks and to try new things and to be hugely ambitious, and to see it all coming together was just such a fantastic feeling.
I think that's one of my favourite bits of the job, is when you have projects that you've maybe been working on for a while, or that have just been, complicated and hard to get off the ground sometimes, or, you've had to fight to get the funding together to make something happen. And after all that hard work and effort, to just see it there on the stage, the packed concert hall of people enjoying it and having the most wonderful time, is such a great feeling, isn't it? And I think, what I love about about the arts and about festivals is that that everybody has a really important role to play. And so, it might be you, Pip, standing on stage talking at the community opera, but hopefully we all know that our colleagues in the ops team, or whichever department it might be, will have played a role in making that happen. And it's that you can kind of take satisfaction from that, in knowing that you've been a part of that. It's really, I think it's a really powerful
it's so
thing.
true.
It's so funny as well what you're saying about when everybody finally gets on stage and starts performing, that's almost like real breather collective. That's all of our work kind of we see it all happen, but also that's when we know our job has happened. So that's always a good thing. I think also we have an incredible group of volunteers who come back here, working with the volunteers who kindly lend their time, and that there are a lot of local volunteers who come back year after year, and then there's a lot of new faces as well, and it's really great to see their confidence grow, and for them to kind of feel part of the festival family as well by the end of the festival is a really great thing. So that's definitely one of my highlights. I think also I think in terms of the music festival, having a younger group of volunteers to work with full time, you definitely see them kind of come out of their shell and start gaining a bit of confidence as the days go on, which is really nice.
Pastoral musicians are just, I'm sorry if there are any watching this, but they're kind of gross, and they make a mess. And that's not my favourite. Behind the scenes at every concert, in every single dressing room, there are tired and sweaty musicians who are just and I think being part of the kind of behind the scenes team, you see a lot more than you think you're going to. But when you get a nice text from a tour manager or somebody saying they've had a great time, then it's sort of all worth it. So true.
And if they've had a really smooth sailing experience, then that's good. They don't see all the kind of crying behind the scenes.
Exactly. It is funny, isn't it? Because you will have experienced this as well, but so often when if people say, what's your job, where do you work, and you say, oh, Cheltenham Festivals, and they just think, and they just they respond so positively and often say, oh wow, that must be absolutely amazing. And I think the image in their head is of glamorous and running around with famous people and cocktails and whatever. And it maybe 0.01% of our job might involve that, but really it's hilarious, isn't it, what you have to turn your hand to in the moment, because something needs doing, a problem needs solving, something's gone wrong, it has to be dealt with right there and then, and you do it, and the adrenaline carries you through. And actually that's one of the things that I love about it. It's just being in that moment and having to make things happen. And
definitely.
And there might be times where you just inadvertently fall out with someone, but it never lasts, because it's just something that's happened in that moment, and there's a misunderstanding, or you just need something doing. But I think the strength of the friendships and relationships carries us through, doesn't it?
For sure.
And there are so many unexpected things as well, that no matter how much you plan and how detailed your notes are, there's always going to be something that is just a complete curveball. And
always,
with a lot of our outdoor festivals, where we make a whole village, festival village, then a lot of the things that seem to go wrong are weather related. So luckily we don't have to contend with battling with the weather usually for the music festival in July, but we
or it's just too hot. It's just too hot.
Yeah, that's true. We spend a lot of time battling with fans in the music office.
You might not be the most qualified or the best in your field, but if you are a really good person to work with and you're reliable and enthusiastic and supportive, and you have a good attitude, then people will want to work with you, and you will get work, and be employed, and you'll get asked back, more importantly. You know, we've seen that with you, Nat. You've freelanced and did bits and pieces of the festivals, and then we asked you to come and help at the festival, and then you got offered the job that you're doing now. And a lot of that is, well, all of that is down to the fact that you were so organised and great to work with. You have a great attitude at the festivals. You're brilliant at kind of staying calm under pressure, and sort of, you know, just like not getting visibly really stressed out about stuff. And you're just a really nice, good person to work with and to have around on site. And that, you just kind of can't underestimate the value of that and how important it is when you're kind of working in quite high pressure situations.
It's so true. It's funny because I remember when Nat walked into the office the first day when she'd got her job with Cheltenham Festival, and I hadn't seen her when she came for interview or anything. And I said to Rose, I said, that's someone who did Bandwagon years ago. I remember her. She was absolutely fantastic. And, you know, it's so true, because even at, you know, that tender age of 17 or however old you were then, Nat, you came across as someone who listened, wanted to do their best, would go the extra mile, and all of those really important things, and things that mean that you stick in someone's memory in a positive way, not a negative way. So all those qualities are so important. And if you want to get a job in the arts, you know, it's really important that however that you conduct yourself in that way, that you're proactive, flexible, adaptable, positive, easy to work with, and will go the extra mile, that you're a yes person, not a no person, because people remember that, and it will take you a long way, I think.
Nat, how about you? What would your tips be?
Well, thanks very much for saying that. That's really kind. I was just going to say, really, you know, just following on from what you've both said, we've had a couple of interns recently who I've just been absolutely blown away by their enthusiasm and just how, you know, their attitude to just kind of rolling with whatever we give them, and just, you know, doing everything with such a good attitude and a kind of smile on their face. And I think one of the pieces of advice I would give to somebody who's thinking of doing a career in the arts is just, you know, just put yourself out there and show enthusiasm